We back. Life be lifing, but we still here, y'all. Hopefully, we'll be able to get Mary back onto the live. Started alive. Started alive. I don't know what happened, you guys. But nevertheless, we're going to let the room fill back up again, man. Sis was really dropping some bombs. I hope you guys are back with us. Because, man, she was giving you guys a testimony, y'all. Like, for real, for real. Like, serious. I hope, Crystal, you got it. I know my man from Penn State was over here checking these gems too. So we're going to go get Mary back on. I want you guys to be able to understand the value of what she's saying, you guys. What she's literally saying, I don't care what you're going through, Nikita. Nikita, this was for you. I was thinking about you when I talked to Mary. Is for you to be able to understand that you can become a lawyer. It doesn't matter what your background is. She's proof of that. I'm going to get her back on because sis is doing it big, you guys. And you guys could be able to do it big too. Back on. But again, thank you guys for coming back with us. I want to make sure that you guys, she is phenomenal, like Crystal said. Says, thank you so much. I don't know what happened with the live. All I said was that I said, you know what? The devil is a lie.
Yes.
The devil is a lie. We still going to make this happen.
Yes, we are.
And so one of the things I wanted, because you were saying so many amazing things, like when we do have imperfect past, we do have to move with a certain level of intention. You know, we got to make sure, because, you know, money don't grow on trees. We have to make sure that when we're presenting ourselves, so when you presented yourself and your imperfect past, let's be honest, it's an imperfect past, you show growth. You show transformations. And so I want you kind of give people some tips and how to present their imperfect past, whatever it is. Because I think a lot of times that's what discourages people. They're like, well, damn, you know, I don't know how to say it, you know?
Yeah.
So they just say, I'm just, you know what, it's I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'll try something else.
Yeah. I know it's going to be tempting to try to gloss it over. It'll be tempting to try to, try to make it seem as if things are not nearly as serious as they were. The first thing you need to do is be as open and honest as possible. Like, just be completely transparent. Own up to what has happened. Take full responsibility. So you don't have to go into all the details in the sense of everything that happens step by step. You don't have to, but paint an honest picture. And the best way you can do that is just when you disclose your criminal history. You're gonna get your background. You're gonna put what the court has on theirs, on their record. You don't have to really go into too much more detail other than painting a picture of how your life led up to those circumstances and where you are now. So you want to show how you got to this place and taking full responsibility for what happened. But now talk about the things that you've done since then. Talk about community work that you've done. Talk about how you've used your past as a opportunity to encourage high school students or young people in the community. Talk about how you might have learned from your mistakes and took something that was a blemish, so to speak, something that might have been an embarrassment. Talk about how you use that as leverage and an advantage to be able to help someone else. So what that looked like for me, I talked about the work that I do with my nonprofit. I had started my nonprofit well before I even applied to law school. So I was able to use those stories of how I, go out into the community and started an after school program for teenage girls to help them overcome low self-esteem as a preventative measure to keep them from ever having to enter the system. Being able to impact those who have a lack of parental involvement, so that I can help them to make better choices in life, and using what I went through as an opportunity to bring hope to young people in the inner city. So use what you have as leverage. If you don't have a story like that, say you don't have a nonprofit, say you don't do community work, start doing something. Start doing some community work. Start volunteering somewhere. It does not matter where it is in the community. It can be at a rescue mission, a homeless shelter. It can be at a community center. It can be at a high school, a middle school, elementary school. It can be whether you're doing clothing giveaways, backpack giveaways, whatever it is, start somewhere. And you don't have to start your own organization. Find somebody that's in the community that's doing the work, volunteer. You know, I'll use this, you know, this analogy or this saying that I heard years ago. It said, hit your wagon to a star. You know, you don't have to have it all figured out, but hit your wagon to a star, which basically means somebody that's already doing the work, you just jump on their bandwagon, so to speak. You jump on board. And it could be a cause that you've always been passionate about, or maybe it's something you never thought about. But you want to have something of substance to show these law schools that you are out here doing a work that's giving back to your community. It really helps to offset that negative picture that a rap sheet can paint.
Right.
That negative picture that having a criminal history can provide. When you see that on paper, it looks harsh. Let's just be real. It looks scary. It looks harsh. It's like, whoa. And depending on what your your issues are on paper, it can be really intimidating.
Right.
But you want to offset that by doing good. Offset that by doing some great things in your community.
And also, just to piggyback on it, I just want people to understand what you don't want to do is what I call a confessional, where you just let me tell you everything bad
Yes.
that happened. So they're gonna be like, well,
Yeah.
But instead,
Don't
I
do
want
that.
you guys to think about it. Think about it like, and Mary will probably agree. Think about it like a testimony. I
Mhm.
always think about you from the South. We got people from the South. You know that small backwater church when Mama get up and says, "Let me tell you how good God has been to me." And literally, that is the structure that Mary talks about. You're going to talk about the challenges that you went through. You're going to be completely transparent. Then after you do that, you're going to talk about how that changed you. Now, one of the questions Crystal asked in the chat box is, when do we do this? Do we do this in the addendum, or are we going to do this in a personal statement? Because I tell people, I want you to get to know me first in a personal statement. I don't want to just be telling you all this stuff off top.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you go about
I
formatting?
kept that out of the personal statement. I didn't go into detail about my criminal history in the personal. The personal statement was about, like, the way I wrote mine. I really, like you said, it was like a testimony. But I kept because I said they're going to already read this. I don't want to give them. It's almost like when you have a resume and you have your cover sheet, you have your cover letter. You don't want to repeat anything in that cover letter. You don't want to repeat. You want to use that valuable real estate for what it's there for. You know,
There you
you don't
go.
want to go into detail again because they got to read all of these applications. Number one, all of these personal statements. They do not want to read a book, and they don't want they definitely don't want to see the same thing said over and over again 3 different ways. They don't want to see it in where you got to disclose your history and then in your addendum and then in your personal statement.
Right.
So it's okay. It's not like you're hiding anything. They're going to see what you put out when you disclose your record. So the personal statement, use that to paint the picture that you want to paint about who you are, why you want to go to law school, what are your aspirations, like what do you want to do beyond law school, how are you going to leverage your law school career, you know, talk about something that's important to you, something that you're passionate about. I chose to talk about you know, a little bit about my mom and how she inspired me because I was the first to be able to go to college and graduate from college with my undergrad. And of course, the first person then to go on to even aspire to go to law school. So I touched on that and how it was important to me to leave a legacy for my own children. And I talked about the challenges that I faced with being in an abusive relationship, but being able to overcome that and turn that into an opportunity to help other women who had gone through domestic abuse. And I talked about my after school program for youth. I talked about why that fueled me to start my nonprofit and how I wanted to use my law degree to then go into a field, because again, I went in thinking public interest is it. That's what I'm going to do. So I was truthful about the fact that I came into law school desiring to get a law degree so that I can then give back in a greater way. So I just kind of had that story arc of, this is where I come from, this is my family background, these are the things that I'm doing now, and this is what I want to do in the future. And I did not touch on not one bit about that criminal history because I said this is not the place for that. That's valuable real estate, guys. don't repeat the things that you already have to disclose anyway that are negative. You want to take that opportunity to show yourself as a human, as a person that looks like someone that they know someone someone they can see sitting in their classroom, someone they can see representing their law school, someone that they can see working alongside, being an ambassador and telling others about their school, someone they can be, they can connect with, that human touch. So
There we
that's
go.
what I would suggest.
And again, we're on the line with Attorney Mary Kaye Holmes. I mean, phenomenal sister. Y'all better follow her on Instagram. She has amazing stories. I want you guys to be able to, I just want to just piggyback on some of these things, right? Because one of the questions that people had is, well, what if it's a dismissed charge? Or what if it's something that's, that's been expunged? Or, because you know how they in New York. Or what if it's something that's sealed? Should I share that? Because I tell people, listen, we got to be moved with paranoia and assume that if you're not sharing it and I can see it, that means you're hiding something.
Right.
And I don't want anybody to make any assumptions about me. And so I wonder, what advice would you give people in those situations? You can say, well, it's sealed. Nobody knows.
Yeah, you got to follow the rules.
Yeah.
And if out the gate you are trying to find ways to skirt the rule, if you're trying to find that loophole, so to speak, and I know sometimes, loopholes is not
Yeah.
anything bad, so to speak, but if you're already trying to find a way to hide something, it's not a good, it's not a good sign for them. And especially if they find out later, you don't want to be that person that, you, and I'm not even talking about 3 years down the road when you have to wonder if it's going to come up and you didn't disclose it. I'm talking about the anxiety and
Yeah.
that feeling that you might feel every single year that you go through another year of law school and you're wondering, are they going to find out?
Right.
Don't give yourself that level. That's unnecessary weight and unnecessary challenge, because I'm telling you, disclosure up front is going to go a long way. Matter of fact, it takes you all the way, because at the end of the day, when there's a freedom that comes with that level of
Right.
honesty. And
Right.
if that application says that if you've ever been arrested, it doesn't even matter if you had been charged. It doesn't even matter if you did time. But if you have been arrested and you have to disclose that, don't think, oh, well, you know what? I don't have a record, or it was nollied, or it was, now what I will say is this. I'm not sure. I know I got to look into it, but there's a lot of changes being made, because schools are becoming, and the bar at the American Bar Association is becoming more open to the plight of system impacted people.
Right.
And they are starting to make changes. And so I'm praying that they have made the change, or they will soon make the change, where some of these things may not have to be disclosed, depending on the dynamic or how what type of record it is. I'm praying that does change, because there are a lot of people I know who are still trying to get admitted to the bar and are being held up. However, you don't have to be limited to your home state. If one state says no, take that score, especially if you took, the what is it, the UBE. Oh, I
The
feel like I'm
UB,
getting
right?
older. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting some of these terms. If you took the uniform bar exam and there's another state that you can get licensed in, go for the other state that's more sympathetic towards system impacted citizens, because you're not limited. So say you live in, I don't know, say you live in New Jersey, you live in North Carolina, or I don't know, wherever you live, if you can transfer that score over and apply to another jurisdiction, and do take advantage of that opportunity. And what I will also say this: if you need to do that and you say, but I want to work in my home state, you can still work as a lawyer in your home state and be licensed in another jurisdiction. How do you do that? You can work as, if you, like myself, I'm in-house counsel. I can be barred in any jurisdiction. It doesn't matter, because the company that I work for is my sole client. It doesn't matter where. We got lawyers that are admitted all over the country. So you can still work in corporate law and work as in-house counsel, and then you can go the federal route too. There's so many different ways that you can. There's so many different options that maybe we limit ourselves thinking, I live in North Carolina, or I live in, you know, I live in, I don't know, North Dakota somewhere, and I gotta work, I gotta be barred here and work here. No, don't limit yourself. If one door closes, you go to the next one, because that might be the opportunity that God really wants you to have in the first place. So, and then after 5 years, you can, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, after 5 years, you can transfer to another jurisdiction. You can just start to apply to different jurisdictions and be barred in multiple states. So you have to have the continual practice of law, and there's certain requirements that you have to follow up on. But the main part is, I think, the 5 years continuous practice of law, and you can transfer to any other jurisdiction.
Are y'all catching all this tea? Are y'all catching it? Because I want you guys to be able to understand. This is like, oftentimes the images of what we see, we oftentimes think since they don't look like us, that means that we can't do it, right? And so I hope you hear from Mary and realize, oh, shoot, well, because one door closed, one scholarship opportunity closed, and so many more doors opened up. And so I tell people oftentimes, sis, you can agree with, there's 199 law schools. 199. All you need is one yes. One. And you know what? Bump a ranking, bump a tier, bump all that stuff, right? At the end of the day, it's about when you had your dream of becoming a lawyer. It wasn't saying, I want to go to a tier 14 school. It was about securing a JD to manifest a dream, to advocate for people, to change people's lives, and to be able to manifest your own dream. And so a lot of times people, like you said, they get so rigid into this box. And I hope you guys, by hearing it, your pivot game got to be strong. And I feel like the whole lawyer journey to becoming an attorney is all about learning how to pivot. Yeah. Oh, that didn't work. I got to pivot for the LSAT. Okay, that didn't work. I got to pivot for this. I got to pivot for the NPRE. I got to pivot. I mean, you really get your dancing shoes on. Mm-hmm. And so, and one of the things I think that was amazing is it's like, when you start from a position of honesty, yes, there may be some schools that say no, but that's fine. You don't need to go there. Right. You're not meant to be there.
Right.
Because you start this case, and I mean, sis, you can attest it, when it comes to character and fitness for the bar, they doing their research.
Yes.
And for me, my issue was, raised poor broke. So all I had was loans. And so they opened up an investigation to me about, well, what's your loan situation like? We see the debt here. And I'm like, well, I didn't have money growing up, so all I had was debt. Right. And so you want to understand that level of transparency, it does bring a level of peace with it, because that anxiety, I knew some people that were cagey, and then they had to submit their information to character and fitness. And character and fitness, that's their job. They're investigating you to the nines.
Right.
And you don't want to be in a situation where you have to have a meeting and hear bad news.
Right.
And so, I mean, Mary, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because as soon as I saw you inspiring some, I was like, man, we got to get her on our platform to talk to these people again. We have so many people, sis, who are literally just talking about how you're phenomenal, how you're inspiring them. And I guess I just want to give you the floor one last to share some more words of encouragement that you think will be able to help people be able to realize that, man, this is something that's possible, because I'm sure people see it like, oh man, she had it easy.
No, not at all. But first, let me say thank you so much for having me, because look, this is it like I said early on, like, to be able to inspire people and bring people hope, that's what I do. That's what I believe. Everything that I had gone through, everything that I endured, it was like God was just building up an arsenal for me to be able to pull into that war chest and say, you know what, I'm going to use you to be able to be that beacon of light, and it makes it all worth it. And so life was not easy. There was so many obstacles and so many reasons for me to say no. And I know that for many of you, there's many things that are coming up in your life, and many things that you've encountered that it's like it's just begging you to say no and to give up. But I want to encourage you all, because even though my journey was not easy, and I was met with a lot of roadblocks, I mean, from a very early age, starting at 4 years old, sexual abuse, and then going into being a 14-year-old, being pregnant, and then 15 years old, I meet my first trafficker, and being human trafficked twice, being forced to carry drugs across state lines and being and committing crimes that I was too young to even realize what I was even involved in, and then being sex trafficked and all of those obstacles, being homeless. You talk about being broke. I was homeless with two children, living out of my car. I remember taking my oldest son to the library during the winter time just so he can have a warm place to do his homework. You know, it was difficult. And I remember back then not having not having a higher education, not having a college degree, but you know, a few college credits. You know how it is, y'all, when you take a few credits at a time and you just trying to get there and you doing what you can. And you know, I had a few college credits under my belt, not knowing if I'd ever be able to make it to the associate's degree, but I kept going. And I didn't give up. And when I got to the point where I finally got that associate's degree, I felt that passion. I said, okay, I can do this. I got this. And life kept hitting me hard. It wasn't like life just got better all of a sudden and everything was just roses from there. I kept fighting through all of the trauma, all of the setbacks, because I was hurting. I was still depressed. I was still battling low self-esteem. I had attempted suicide 5 different times. I really didn't know if I could make it, but I kept going. Even when I didn't have it all figured out. Matter of fact, nobody has it all figured out. I still don't got it all figured out. I don't even know what God has in store for me next year, because he always blows my mind every year. I don't know what's coming next year. I don't know what's coming in I got some plans for 2024. But we make plans and God laughs. Girl, you think this, you think that that goal right there, okay, I see you, but you know what, I'm gonna raise you one better. And so what I started to learn was that every negative experience had an expiration date. As difficult as things got, as hard as the times got, I mean, when I tell you, even when I was homeless and suicidal, I kept going forward. I kept pushing, because there was something in me that said, education is my escape out of poverty. That was my goal. I was like, education is my escape out of this. I will never be broke another day in my life. And I kept speaking it. I was saying, I put on Facebook back then, I was on the verge of losing everything. And I said, I see myself 6-figure income. I'm like, I started writing out goals, stuff that didn't make sense to my natural mind. And so even if it doesn't make sense to you right now, start speaking it. I see your posts all the time where you're telling people like, look, I will be an attorney. I will practice. I will be licensed. Start to speak it, because I started putting on my bookcase later on, like it was probably a year before I got accepted into law school. I started printing out pictures of the classrooms and the lecture rooms, and I put them on the side of my bookcase, and I would see myself sitting in those classrooms. I started putting up the law school logos and things like that, because I wanted to see myself where I was going. I started to visualize myself in the courtroom.
Whew.
Now, my visual, I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. My visual was me sitting in the courtroom in front of the judge and my hands just shaking so bad because I'm so nervous. But I was in the courtroom, okay? Because I had that social anxiety. I'm like, am I going to be able to represent anybody? Because remember, I'm thinking I'll be a criminal defense attorney. I was like, I'm going to do it scared. I'm going to do it. Even if I see myself trembling and shaking, I'm going to do it. And I saw myself doing that. And don't you guys know that even though I wound up going into corporate law, I was able to go into the courtrooms and volunteer to represent battered women, women who had gone through abuse, women who were trying to get restraining orders against their partners or different people who were abusive to them. I was able to go and be an advocate for them. That was one of my first student lawyer volunteer programs that I became a part of. And then I joined the post-conviction innocence clinic. And my first client that I represented, we were able to get him exonerated after he had been fighting for his freedom for 44 years.
Wow.
So when I tell you your dreams are possible, don't let any, feel that fear and do it anyway. Because if I would have let that fear intimidate me, if I don't let that anxiety make me feel, oh, you've been diagnosed with social anxiety, you've been diagnosed with clinical depression, who are you going to represent? How are you going to speak up for somebody and you can't even speak up for yourself? That's the kind of negative self-talk that was going through my head. But I said, you know what? I'm going to override that, and I'm going to go after the thing that I know God has for me. Put those pictures up on your wall, put your vision board together, visualize yourself in the courtroom, visualize yourself getting that law degree, visualize yourself getting that law license. visualize yourself in the character and fitness investigation, representing yourself well, answering every question with ease, and just letting it flow and not having any issues with being honest. Just visualize all of that and see yourself doing it. And when the time comes where you actually have to do it, it's going to be like, okay, I already did this already. I did this 50 times in my head. I already did this 50 times in my mind already. And when I tell you, my husband, he was standing outside the door while I was doing my character and fitness investigation. And it was just like, he was just like in awe, because he's like, you've been doing this the whole time. All the times you've been out speaking and telling your story, it was able to come up naturally because I had been already sharing and being open and honest with people like you all, sharing what I had gone through, how I was able to overcome. It was just flowing like ease. It was so easy because I had been doing it. So even if you don't have the opportunity to tell your story in front of a big audience or any audience, talk about it in your mind. Tell yourself over and over, I got this. Okay, this is what happened. This is what I did now. That's not who I am now. I'm not that person anymore. That person is in my past, but that person is going to serve me. That I'm not going to become a slave to that old person. I'm not going to become a slave to the old mind. I'm not going to become a slave to my rap sheet. That is going to serve me now. That's gonna work in my favor. It's going to benefit me. I'm going to make it work for me. So you put your past to work. Put your past to work and sit, like, get to a place where your past is no longer a liability, but it's an asset.
Woo! Did y'all catch that? That means every challenge that you've been through, because you overcame it, because it didn't break you, because it didn't beat you, that's your testimony of why you're going to be successful. What's going on, Patrick? I mean, that's amazing. Sis, thank you so much. You got me over here, man. I'm feeling the Holy Spirit over here. I'm praying you guys were able to catch this. And, thank you so much for taking time. Make sure you guys follow her at Here Mary Speaks. She's a phenomenal testimony. And you know what? I'm sure if people have questions about their situations, is it okay for them to reach out to you?
Yes, absolutely. Send me a DM. I'll check my you know how you have the spam folder when I'll be making sure I'll check my all folders in my DM. So please feel free to reach out. I'm here to be a blessing and to spread hope and light. And God's got this. He's got you guys, and He sees the desires of your heart. And to be able to go into this career is a privilege. It is a privilege and an honor. And so I welcome you all, future lawyers, into the field of law, into the practice of law. So come on, join the club. Come on, get in and do whatever it is in your heart to do, because it's waiting for you. Our opportunities are waiting. Don't limit yourself. Opportunities are waiting for you.
And as we close again, I want to tell you guys, listen, man, I know at times this journey can feel like you're by yourself. You got people who are here to support you. We got Here Mary Speaks, and we're bringing on other guests to help and support you. You're not in this journey alone. There's people who look like you, go through what you've been through, who are there to show and navigate you. And so I want you to utilize these resources. Don't be scared. Don't be out in your corners. Realize you have people and resources that are rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. Mary's rooting for you. We got all these people rooting for you. So you're not on this journey alone. I want to thank you again, sis. And I also want to thank everybody for joining us for Making the Case, episode 8. We can't wait to talk to you guys again Wednesday at 8. And, of course, we'll be doing our free LSAT silent study hall tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So thank you again, sis. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Continue to work and fight for your lawyer dreams. Kendrick, holler at me, okay? Take care, everybody. God bless.